Hi guys, this is Chuck from Nepali Brew. Thanks for tuning in. If you are here for the first time visiting us, thanks again. And please do not forget to click the subscribe button below. We bring awesome and amazing videos just for you.
Okay guys, now that we've done all of our hop additions, we're going to finish out our boil and then we're going to cool it down. Cooling is very important for beer, and there's a lot of different reasons, but the main reason is that bacteria likes to work at 100 or so degrees temperature, okay? So what we want to do is we want to get it down as close as we can to 75 to 80 degrees. The cooler the better, of course, so we can get our yeast started in here. And what that does is that starts to produce alcohol and CO2. So if there happens to be any kind of bacteria, it'll surely take care of it at that point, okay? Other thing is that your clarity, it's not really affect on your temperature or on your quality of your beer or the flavor, but it can have a haziness to your beer if you don't cool it down quickly. Okay, so what we've done is we're actually brewing about 4 gallons of beer. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of gallons of water back to this to actually cool it down. But before that, we're actually going to use an ice bath to actually try to cool this particular amount of wort before we add the cold water back to it. And the reason being is because if I just go in here and add a couple gallons to get to 5 gallons to cool it off, we're going to have 5 gallons of 120 degree wort. So it's really important for you to go ahead and cool this off first and then add your cold water to get you down to around 75 degrees, which is about optimum pitching temperature. Okay, so there's other ways of actually chilling as well. One of that ways is actually something called a wort chiller or immersion chiller. That's what most people start out with. It's not necessary to brew your first batch, but that's something that most people add over time. What it does is it actually, you put it inside of the wort, run it through the water runs through it, and this works as a little small heat exchanger, and it actually removes the heat. You can use it on a water hose, or we have adapters as well that you can use to put on your sink. Okay guys, well after this we're going to get back to our chilling and we'll show you how that's done. Thanks. Okay guys, now that we have our pot in the sink, we're going to start up our ice bath and start to cool this beer down. You can also use a cooler for this if you'd rather use an igloo cooler or something of that nature. That works as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some water to it, fill it up. Ice water actually will help it, although we're melting a lot of it. You have more surface area when you have ice water. So now the next thing we're going to talk about is sanitation and how important it is. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to start sanitizing our equipment. Nothing has to be really sanitized as far as your pot's concerned, but when it comes to once your beer starts to cool down, it's very, very important that everything touches your beer at that point has to be sanitized. Now there is a difference between sanitization and cleaning. Just keep this in mind. You can't sanitize dirt or organic material. So it's very important to remove any kind of dirt. That's what we use the PBW for. In sanitation, we use something called Star San. This is a non-rinse sanitizer. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix some of that up here in a few seconds in our primary fermenter. Primary fermenter is included in your equipment kit, and we'll talk about that just here in a few minutes. Okay guys, while we're letting our wort chill down to our pitching temperature, I'm going to talk a little bit about our equipment. Most of it we're going to use later on. The one thing that we're going to use today is we're actually going to use the primary fermenter that's included in your kit. This is the one without the hole in the bottom. The one with the hole in, or actually the bottom of the side here, you can see here, is actually used for our bottling. And we'll see that later on in our next episode about bottling and secondary fermentation. Okay, so you'll see here it says 5 gallons of wort. We're going to add our wort once it cools down to about 110, 120 degrees into here. Then we're going to add our cold water at that point to get 5 gallons. Now this is just an approximation. On the bucket, it's not exactly 100% accurate just due to manufacturing processes, but it's a pretty good ballpark. So what we're going to do next is we're going to get this all sanitized up, because anything and everything that touches your wort, once it cools down, has to go through sanitizer. And how are we going to sanitize? We're going to use something called Star San. This is what's included in your kit. You use 1 ounce per 5 gallons. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fill up my fermenter all the way up to 5 gallons, and then I'm going to add 1 ounce of this. We're going to let that have about a 30-second contact time, and then we're going to pour it out, and then we're going to fill it back up with our beer. Now, it's really important. A lot of people really get upset about the foam. Star San is extremely foamy. That's part of the cleaning and sanitation action. Okay, so don't fear the foam. Don't rinse it out, because if you rinse it out, you've just undone what you just did. So make sure that you don't sweat it too much about the foam. Okay, so you'll see it here in just a second. We may have a little bit of foam left over. It's usually especially bad in your carboy, but like I said, don't sweat it. The yeast will actually consume it as a nutrient. All right, so let's get started. We're going to use this bucket here.